Long ago, before the collapse, there was a city built by mankind. Legend says it was so bright that you could see it for miles. But then it arrived, the traveler, setting its sights on our solar system. Madness followed. It was impossible to escape the aftermath. Without warning, without a trace, our beautiful world began to crumble. Before we knew it, the city, the world, everything had become a battleground for the unimaginable and the unexplainable.
Hey everyone, Damien here with MMORPG.com, and I am here with a special guest. In the Destiny community, there are a number of creators who grab the spotlight when it comes to talking about theory crafting, gameplay, and lore. And in today's interview, we get the privilege of talking with Smart Hopewell, also known as PsalmLab, one of the most positive and passionate Destiny lore masters on the internet, and the creator of the upcoming web series Old Chicago Wild Hunt. Smart, thank you so much for joining me here today. This interview has been a long time coming, but I am so glad to be joining you here today.
Yeah, Damien, thank you so much for asking me to do this. I really appreciate it. It's really exciting for me to get to talk about Destiny in general and just the incredible things that Bungie do, but to get to talk about Old Chicago, obviously, which is why we're here, and I guess give away some small things that people can get excited for. Definitely up for that. So yeah,
I'm definitely looking forward to that, especially as this project has been made aware to me, and as I've been getting to know a little bit more about you and your content and stuff like that, because we're talking about lore, and we're talking about a piece of lore that we have gotten breadcrumbs about, but it is the Old Chicago region of Earth. So let's talk about Old Chicago Wild Hunt. This is your forthcoming web series that's in production right now, or it's in
that's right.
Your early stages of production right now. Okay, so first off, why Old Chicago? Because one, it's not a location in the game right now, but there's been a lot of speculation specifically around the release of the Witch Queen. And then let's talk a little bit about the concept of Wild Hunt. So the floor is yours, my friend. Go ahead. Let's talk about Old Chicago here.
So Old Chicago has been a big deal ever since the Graviton Lance.
Oh, okay.
Because the only reference, there were only 2 references to Old Chicago very early on from Destiny 1, even though I didn't play it. But I was reading the lore a lot at that time, and so I think there is one Grimoire card that kind of briefly mentions it, but Graviton Lance exotic trace rifle, pulse rifle.
Yep.
Was one of the main things that talks about finding this trace rifle in Old Chicago, and I'm trying my best to not. to not say too much about what we're doing. The trace rifle isn't being talked about in this instance. Whether it will be talked about in the future, I don't know, but I'm sure we'll get to it at some point along the line. But Old Chicago just has a very unique story that's being told. I want to do my best to remember the writers who. So Robert Brooks was one of the writers who wrote Old Chicago and the characters, which are Shayura, Aisha, and Reed Seven, who are the protagonists of the Old Chicago Wild Hunt series that we're working on right now. So so Graviton Lance was around showed up in the early part of Destiny 2. I'm trying to find a release date for you. Which was 2017.
Okay.
Right? What are we in right now? We're in June,
That would have been
July,
that would have been very beginning.
Yeah, so August
6th
was when the Graviton Lance showed up, and that was the first time. That was the first time in D2 we'd heard about Old Chicago, because Old Chicago had been referenced in D1. I'll have to find the lore card that mentions it. But we didn't start getting any new information about Old Chicago after that until later. And the next time it's mentioned, the next time anything to do with Old Chicago is mentioned is during Beyond Light. And that's when we start to get the Wild Hunt vestment, because that was Season of the Hunt. So we got the Wild Hunt vestment, Wild Hunt vest, Wild Hunt plate, as items that had lore entries with them. So armor pieces that had lore entries. And so one of the pieces, which is in fact all three pieces, talk about Old Chicago. They reference it. And for those people who are clever, if you read each piece, it will give you a different piece of some things that happened in Old Chicago. And so clever people would copy paste that and put it in a document, and it'll
and it's almost like there's a story there.
Yeah. it'll tell you something. What's fun about these? I immediately fell in love with these characters, and particularly Shayura. She's such a complex character who has been through a lot of trauma, right? She's been through a lot of experiences that have shaped who she's becoming, because we don't Bungie is still writing about this character. That's what's really exciting. So there's material for days. So that's kind of the background behind why I chose Old Chicago. The funny thing was, I had done a couple of videos. People had started asking questions, I think, when Bungie first released the teaser image for Witch Queen. And it had this blurred foliage behind it that made people think, oh my gosh, is it going to be Old Chicago? And that was the moment that I said to myself, yo, I need to do something. I realized that I really wanted to take that story that I'd read about in so many flavor texts and turn it into, a living, breathing, animated piece.
So you mentioned a little bit about some of the characters that are going to be involved in this series, the fire team that you're going to be following. Would you mind telling us a little bit, give us a little bit of an introduction to these characters? You talked a little bit about Shoyora. These are characters that are found within the pages of Destiny lore, right? Okay. So the series, is it following this particular fire team? Do you have original characters that you're bringing in? Are they all just characters from Destiny lore, a mix? Or give us a little bit of a teaser, if you can, about what we can expect as far as characters go. Who are we following?
So you're going to be following this fire team, which is Shayura, who's a warlock, Aisha, who is a hunter, and Reed 7, who is an exo titan. And people will be familiar with them because they are Trials of Osiris veterans, big time.
Okay.
They spend a lot of their time in Trials. Whether we'll be featuring trials stuff or not, I don't know. At this moment in time, I can't say. I would love the idea of it, but I think it's important to be able to hone in on specifics, right? To tell this particular story without like going off track all over the place. But yeah, people will be familiar with them already. If you have Trials armor, you know who Shayura is and Reed 7. If you have been to Europa a lot, you will most certainly know who Aisha is. She has a lot of back history tied to Europa. I won't go into detail because I think it spoils things. But for those who like to dig for information, it's not hard to find. Like if you go look within Destiny the game itself, you can look at different collectibles or armor pieces and find lore about them, or you can go to I feel like I'm promoting Ishtar Collective.
So with that in mind, okay, we're following these characters. What would you describe as the general tone of the series as you're writing it? How would you introduce, like, what are people going to experience with this?
So I think people are going to be able to feel like this story, this journey is very familiar to them, having read so much about them, and we wanted this piece to be something that fits into the current narrative.
Okay.
And it will attempt to give you glimpses of key moments. But yeah, honestly, we wanted it to feel, as a fan of Destiny, I think, especially if you love the lore a lot, don't get me wrong, I love PvP, right? This probably last season and this season and the 2 seasons I've spent the longest amount of time I have in PvP, because I'm just like, I just really enjoy getting in there and learning more about my class's abilities through combat, understanding what all the different combinations of class abilities do. And so I mention that because I think it's so key to this story that we're telling of these Guardians, and who they are stems not just from their character but also their chosen subclasses. So we really, in as gentle a way as possible, dig deep into the importance of not just the light, but who these Guardians are based on their subclasses.
Okay.
So I think people can be hopeful for some cool, some flashy things. I'll put it that way.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Okay, so as far as, you know, you're calling this a series. So, you know, a series can be like anything from, you know, 1 episode, 2 episode, or 2 episodes to, you know, 20,000, depending on, you know, what the what the series is. What are you anticipating right now as far as like the runtime for this? You know, what are you looking at right now?
So we're constantly in meetings. I'm constantly in meetings with Neekin. He's our 3D lead. I just appreciate his support, because I can't be here sitting here without his help and his input. And he's never pushy, right? But he always has really valid suggestions that really push me to where I need to take things forward a little bit more. And yet he's like, he's one of the very core pieces of this engine. That is the Wild Hunt team, is what we call ourselves. And so the idea is that this episode is going to, let me see, am I allowed to give a time for people to? It will be substantial.
That's fair. That's fair. Obviously, like editing stuff, you know, can land things all over the place. So
Yeah.
I don't want you to get married to a it's going to be like 37 minutes and 22 seconds, or something like that.
I would love that. Like my original dream for episode 1 was that it was going to be like this 55-minute epic ride.
As Nienken starts sweating in the back.
That was, it's something we've laughed about, and it's something that we've talked about.
Since this is kind of otherwise uncharted story, how did you proceed with the writing?
I really spent a lot of time reading all of the old Chicago lore, as far as I could dig back, even going to Destinypedia and searching for everything under Old Chicago. But I can't take credit because very early on in the writing process, one of the other team members pointed something out pretty big, and I was like, oh, I need to go back and do my homework. So it was in that process of doing my homework that I started to learn more about the characters that is Shayura, Aisha, and Reed 7, and start to understand their personalities a little bit more, because although they're such a tight knit, their characters contrast each other in such a big way. Those elements are reflected in the story that we put together so far.
Tell us a little bit about the people that you're collaborating with. Let's shine a light on some of these people.
So I'll go through the list and I'll talk about each person. So
go for it.
The very first person who joined the team was Jessie Young, and Jessie Young is our composer. Her talent is I don't even know if through the stratosphere is the appropriate level, but she's probably one of the most humblest and also hardworking women you'll ever meet, because she takes every project she works on really seriously, and she devotes so much time and dedication and energy into crafting something that, I gave her a couple of examples of what I was hoping for this project, and she brought it to life in the 4 tracks that she made. And that album, it was one of those things where I was just like, you know what, we're just gonna we're gonna drop this, we're gonna drop it like it's hot, because this is too good to just leave locked away. And I thought it would be such a fantastic idea to give people a real flavor of what we're trying to do by letting them hear the sound that we're trying to conjure in this experience. I feel like composers who do music for soundtracks or VFX, whatever it be, they're heavily underappreciated, and Jessie Young is heavily underappreciated. And I'm always saying to her how talented she is in that look. Every chance I get, I'm going to hype the living daylights out of this soundtrack. So if you YouTube Old Chicago, you will see all of those tracks at the top of the list. That's how well received they were. So I mentioned Jessie Young, I've mentioned Nienken, I've got to mention my girl Grace, who many people know, who also goes by the name Night Stalker on Twitter, so most people will probably be familiar with her Twitter name. But yeah, she is the voice of our protagonist, Shayura. I also reached out to Jacula is his name. So he took the original illustration of Old Chicago and he brought it into Blender and brought that whole thing to life. And I was like, I just reached out to him straight away. I was like, let's do this thing. And he was like, I'm in. I'm like, right, here's a contract. Sign it.
Nice.
Yeah, so Jack was team member number 3. And then we have Weston, my goodness. People will know Weston from the Season of the Plague. That guy. So Blue Jay was one of the original team members on this on Old Chicago project, and people will know that from the first devlog that we did. He now works for Bungie. Yeah. But that wasn't a direct result of this project. But I always mention him as one of the core team members because a lot of the value he added early on are like some of the foundational pillars that a lot of the work we're doing now is sat on, and so I always like to extend appreciation to him. But yeah, so Weston joined because Blue brought him on board, and Blue was like, "Hey, let me introduce you to Weston. He's crazy good." And obviously, I'd watched all the Season of the Plague stuff, so I was like, "Yep, we'll take just come on, we'll take you. Thank you. Come on down." And then I just kept reaching out. So then we have Lady, who is well known for her I like to call it Destiny cinematography. She just gets screenshots like I've never seen anybody get screenshots in Destiny before. And so I was like, "Yep, I need you." So yeah, would you join? And she joined. So really excited to have her part of the team. Her work is incredible. So now I can go ahead and talk about Xbox and Serena. Xbox, it has been a real honor working with Xbox. They continually blow my mind with how talented they are and how much dedication they put into what we have been working on so far without giving away too many things. Xbox, they just really, they offer so much talent to what we've done so far. But last but not least, I want to talk about Serena, and it's been so great getting a chance to know her and see what she has to offer to the team and bring on board in terms of the script and some of the lines and some of the questions that she's asked. We've been doing tests per se, don't want to give too much away, and she I can't wait for you guys to hear what she's done. It's incredible, really excited to see how it's all going to come together, and just really excited about both of them joining the team. Is a massive deal, and like I keep saying, without these guys we wouldn't be as far as we are right now, so really excited to see how it's all going to fit.
Awesome. Well, again, Smart, thank you so much for taking the time to share with us here today about Old Chicago Wild Hunt. As a fellow Destiny player and lore junkie, I personally cannot wait to see how all of this comes together. So for all of you Guardians out there, I will leave you with PsalmLab's sign off of stay safe and Godspeed. We'll see you Starside, Guardians.